It is episode number 64 of Mound Visit. I'm Casey Honigbaum. Today we're talking with Tony Barnette about some of his time overseas playing baseball in Japan, playing baseball in the States when he and Grilli were teammates with the Rangers. Some awesome stories to share here on Mound Visit. Episode 64 of Mound Visit. Before we get to our interview with Tony Barnette, former pitcher for the Texas Rangers, played overseas in Japan. We'll get into that whole story. We want to remind you to subscribe to the podcast. You could do that if you'd like to watch it on YouTube, and also take a second to rate, review, and share the show wherever you get your podcasts. We are a part of the Believe Podcast Network. Every team, every topic, everywhere. And a reminder, this show is brought to you by Sweet Hand Sports. It's one of the rising names in batting gloves, golf gloves. They got hats, whatever you need. They're a local Pittsburgh product. We thank them a lot for sponsoring this show. They're awesome. So go support them. You can do it with us, Mound Visit 10. Use that code on their website, www.sweethandsports.com, and you can use that code to get 10% off your first purchase here today. Get your batting gloves, get your golf gloves, do whatever you got to do there. But without further ado, thank you for tuning in here today, and we'll get you to that interview with Tony Barnette.
Tony Barnette coming in.
Let's go.
Where is he? Let's go, dude. I wore something that resembled a little bit of Asian style for you, because I know you love the Asian.
You, man.
This came all the way from, I don't know. I don't know if it fell off. You know, your
looks
baggage.
Like looks like you could take the hat off, ditch the glasses, walk into it, just mop up the floor, just give him the hi-ya.
You know, hi-ya. Or just go to some culinary with Guy Fieri, you know.
My man.
Yeah, there you go. Tony, thank you for joining us. We love having you. We're very happy to have you here on Mound Visit. Thanks for taking the time.
Well, hey, thanks for having me. I hope I didn't pop in too early, mess up your guys' flow, did I?
No, that's all right. We were flowing, but it's great to have you join in. No, this is fantastic. We'll just have you. We're riffing here. That's what a Mound Visit is.
Mound Visit is, dude. Sometimes the shortstop comes in, you don't know what the hell he's going to say, and just be like, just get out of here. You're not making the pitch. I am. Right? Or just are you buying dinner tonight? He was like, get us out of here. I'll buy dinner if you get us out of this. Give me a ground ball.
Back to the hotel and let me know how the chicken fingers work.
Which we're going to bring into that. Speaking of which, Tony and I were good friends, teammates with my second round of Texas, which I love the heat so much. I had to go back. So hot.
Doesn't sound sarcastic at all.
No, wasn't. It's probably my lower tier organization of where I loved to play. But you know, big league uniform, great dudes. I just wish that I could have played in a hot tub instead of just the heat. It would have been cooler even in a hot tub.
Air conditioning over your head now, right?
Right? What a difference that would have been.
I mean, then you light everything else on fire down there and just bring up the heat a little bit by the time you get out to the mound. Cools the other side of the pillow.
Yeah, so I had to share when I came up with you guys in 17. It was the end of my career. Bannister, knowing him from the Pirates, picked me up after the Blue Jays got rid of me, and they worked out a little trade deal. Come over there, and I said, "What do you need me to do?" He goes, "Fix the bullpen." I go, "Well, what's going on in the bullpen?" I think a lot of guys wanted to be in a role that wasn't technically theirs, or they just had a little bit loftier goal. And I go, guys, we got to just figure this out. Be a closer in the sixth inning if you got the sixth inning, and let's figure this out. So I had a little kumbaya moment, and we started a little bonfire in the what would you call that? The bunker down below.
With some K-cups.
Yeah, so I just threw these guys for a little bit of a curveball to kind of get some team bonding, as I like to call it. And per the request of Bannister, as if it wasn't hot enough in Texas, we started a fire to the degree where some guys got carried away. I'm like,
Oh my
get out
God.
here. The fire department came during the middle of the game, so people were under this. The stands were above us, and
smoke billowing out.
yeah, because Texas wasn't hot enough. We made it hotter, and it worked though. I have to say,
Unreal.
it worked because the team, the bullpen, we gelled a little bit different. Guys, right? Would you say? I'm not going to take credit for it. I'm just going to say.
Relaxed. I mean, I think it was especially in that 17 year. There was a lot of guys trying to do a whole lot, and like there was some tightness down there. So Grilli definitely came in, lightened the mood, untied the strings a little bit. It was he was by far one of my favorite additions in my short time in the big leagues.
I said another day in the show, no big deal. I made the T-shirts like, guys, relax, right? I mean, why are you making such a big deal? You're the
T-shirts.
Yeah, I got in trouble for making T-shirts. We'll leave that one out. Right? I didn't know I had to get permission to do that.
Oh boy. Well, Tony, I mean, you talked about, obviously you mentioned your time in the majors, but I want to touch on, before we go back to that, I want to touch on your time playing professional baseball in Japan, because we haven't had the opportunity to talk with someone who's done that yet. And I think it's such a fascinating subject, and one that I think isn't talked about enough. And obviously you've got your book out, Baseball Gaijin, which it's kind of funny. I know that I looked up like the meaning of the word. It can kind of be almost like, isn't it, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it almost sometimes taken as like derogatory because it's like foreigner or outsider, that type of thing?
I mean, if we in the States were to use that term, like, oh, he's just a foreigner, we're gonna get hammered down, we're gonna get hammered for it. We wouldn't do it, leave it out.
Right.
We're all Americans here, but in Japan, like, I think like the term jin is kind of like for like a people, like like in Japan, they don't call it Japan, they call it Nippon, and like that's that.
Okay.
And then like the Japanese guy, like people, they're like Nihonjin, and then like we're Gaijin. So it can be taken as like as derogatory, but
Gotcha.
in reality, it really is just saying like this guy's just not from here.
Sure.
Like you can all tell. He's 6'1", got he can see the entire way down the subway. So it's just
this guy
for a foreign helper.
I've kept in touch with you over the course of everything, and Tony and I always have this thing where we bonded because I got him out of the hotel room just to enjoy big league life, and not just on the field. I would take him on these excursions, and we have a thing with payphones because every time we saw a payphone, we were going to make a collect call and call each other. So we had that joke, but I got Tony to come out of his hotel room. Tony, I'll let you embellish because I don't like telling the stories. I like getting our guests to tell the stories from the angles of when we hung out together. And this guy, by the way, I think if you wrote a book and you got this clean cut look now than when you played, man, wow, what a change, a makeover.
I'm trying to scare people, like I'm not an intimidating dude, but throw in the long hair and a big bushy beard and just throw some attitude in it and give myself a little aura. But now I'm sitting behind the stands, networking, trying to be a productive.
We got a William Shakespeare over here. Look we got a William Shakespeare over here.
I throw the glass on and squint a little bit, but it got the glare, so I don't want you guys, glaring it up on me. So if you throw something up on the screen, might have to get in real close.
Awesome, dude.
Jason. So like even before Jason, like I would get out in certain cities just to see some sights in the morning, go walk, have breakfast, go get a coffee at like a local shop, especially places like Seattle where I'm from, go and meet people and things like that. And then Grilli comes along in 17 and I'm not doing too much. And then he just walks up and he's like, there's a group of us there. And he says, hey guys, we're in Anaheim. And he just goes, here's the deal. There's a rental car, 8 a.m. in the lobby. Either you're in or you're out. Be there. And I'm like, and somebody's like, well, what are we doing? He just goes, there's a rental car, 8 a.m. in the lobby. Are you in or are you out? And he just says, I'm leaving it at that. And he just goes back to work. I'm the only dude that shows up at 8 a.m. that next morning, ready to go. I've got swim trunks. I don't know what we're doing. I've got everything. I'm like, we're in California. And he just looks at me and goes, do you want a massage? And I said, What do you mean? He just goes, let me spell this out for you. Do you want a massage? And I'm like, you know what?
Not from me, though. Not from me.
Well, so let me go. And so all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And he's like, all right, we're heading to the beach. And then sure enough, we get to the beach. We get to the secluded part of like, we end up on a private beach somewhere. And sure enough, these two masseuses come carrying their table down the stairs. So
he was so confused. He's like, "What are we doing?" I said.
Yeah. And so we end up, he ends up getting us massage. We're sitting there on the beach. Later on, the park service comes because we're on private land, private beach. And you guys can't do that here. And Jason said, listen, we
already paid for it. We're going to finish the massage.
We got like 5 or 10 minutes left. And they're like, yeah. And then the Rangers just laugh. And they're like, yeah, finish up. And next massage you get, head down to Huntington, And so it turned into this whole thing where every time we went back to Anaheim, Grilli just had the rental. Me and him hop in the car, head to the beach, roll up to the stadium, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, sand falling out of our shoes, just ready to go. So that's me embellishing a little bit on Grilli. Sometimes we would just go pick up a couple chairs and just sit and stare at the ocean a little bit. Grilli go cleanse himself in the Pacific,
Yeah,
we just
we're
hang
changing
out
in the parking lot, like acting like, well, where'd you go? We just got out of the hotel.
Yeah,
no big deal.
Yeah, I'm there putting on slacks and a collared shirt, getting dressed, and I rolled in with no socks and sand falling out of my dress shoes, and it was fantastic.
But see, it was almost like we didn't do anything wrong, but it was almost like, what'd you get to do? Because you had to experience a little high to go. You break up the monotony, and that was my whole point. I'm not gonna tell everybody about the chicken tenders late night menu in the Four Seasons somewhere. It's not what you do.
Boy.
Right? You get a seaplane in Seattle and you go cruise around and, go hang out.
Better days too. He really ends up putting together a seaplane come flying out of the Puget Sound. And growing up in Washington, I'd never done that before. I'd seen all those sights before, but not from the air like that. And so me and a few other guys with Grilli, we go cruising around the skies. Just seeing the sights before we hit up the ballpark, and he's right. It was one of these things like we have this honor and this privilege to go to these amazing cities all throughout the country. Baseball takes you to all sorts of different cool places, and you might as well enjoy it while you're there. I remember, for instance, I had one day off in New York, and it rained the whole time, but I saw everything I possibly could. I'd never been there before. Went out to Ellis Island, went out to the World Trade Center, went down to Times Square, and I'm just getting rained on the whole time. Had some pizza, tried to live up New York as much as I could in that like 10-hour window that I had, and really set the tone for that for I think a lot of younger guys as well. In 2017, they did have some youth in the bullpen and guys that were kind of scared to do anything but go to the field and get to work. Which you get one shot of the big leagues and the window closes on you quick, so enjoy it. That's like you probably heard Grilli say, welcome to the show, enjoy it.
Enjoy it, man.
There's no better attitude to have than I'm in the big leagues. I'm going to use it. I'm going to abuse it. I'm going to have a great time and work hard in the meantime, but enjoy what you've got in front of you. Don't just, sit late up night eating the chicken fingers, playing your PlayStation. You got plenty of
well, the intensity, like I said, it's amazing, right, to offset that intensity, but I gotta highlight because it's a major accomplishment. I think it's so awesome. I mean, I wrote a book myself and just was reluctant to share. I had never intended to write one, and now you got one. And what that does and share, you tell some insights of, and give a memoir to even your kids. It's really what it was for me. It's just writing a love letter to my children about things that I knew I'd forget after my career, and what a place to be cultured, 3-pronged electricity that you were able to have over in Japan, come over and even make it in the big leagues too. And, it's just, there's no telling what you're going to do and help somebody that, you may not even indirectly or directly know. And when they read your book, how you touch people just by living your story. So I think it's going to be pretty cool what you're going to find out if you haven't already when people read it. And I can't wait to get a copy. And obviously I want you to put your John Hancock in there, or Herbie Hancock, whichever one you go with, to sign me a book.
No, I've got it packed right now. Just got to make it.
Dude, yeah, can't wait to read it, dude. And I'm going to ask you to fill in the blanks like I did Josh Hamilton when I read his book.
Like you said, it's a vulnerable situation. There's some deep down feelings that go into it. There's some things that happen behind the scene that you read through it before it gets released, and you're like, oh man, like I don't know if I want the world to know this. Then upon release, people are reading through it, and you don't really, they're happy for you. They're just, they're excited to read stories, especially about ball players in any fashion. You found in your travels that whenever a ball player gets on a rant, people stop and listen. They love the stories, and what was the mundane for you and me is something that other people don't get to live firsthand, and we do, and all we can do is become storytellers at that time, and hope that we can not bore them to death along the way, but also let them in on there's some psychoticness that goes on down in the bullpens that a lot of it won't get written about, but sometimes when it does, it comes out as a funny story, and it's off the wall stuff that gets guys to come out of their shells, relax a little bit, and go out there and perform for the masses.
Well, yeah, no, definitely, too, your story too. I know we all deal with some type of confidence issue and mental this and overcoming that. And I know, towards part of your career, you had some of that where you were like, I don't know whether I want to play anymore. You don't know when that last inning's going to be, or what the reason is going to be, where you say, I've had enough of this, right? Or I want to part ways. I want to do some other stuff in life. There's so much life after baseball. I think that's the hardest part for ball players in transitioning. But, I've kept in touch with you, and speak to that if you could, because I think a lot of people, say, hey, what happened to this guy? There's always a whole new crop of people, and we're forgotten about because we're no longer borrowing the game. It's not ours. Nobody owns it. No one person's bigger than the game. But I love what you've gone through. Your journey is so different than most, in that you've played in 2 different countries and did it very well. You've achieved it at the highest level. So just speak to some of that stuff with what the mental was, your pulling, and with family life. People don't get to hear that kind of stuff.
Like you just touched on, the end is just the beginning. And it's hard for that transition. You can prepare for it as much as you think you can, but I don't think any ball player is truly ready for the very end. And as well rehearsed as we all are from talking to vets like Jason and guys that come before us about being ready, make sure this is taken care of, you're never truly ready for the emotions that come with it. It truly is like a loss. You can almost parallel it to a loss of a loved one, because it's something that you put your heart and your soul and time and sacrifice into for your entire life, and then, like, without the drop of a hat, it's gone. Not many of us get to prepare for the end that way. Usually it's just light switch off and we're out of there, and they've replaced us with somebody else. So you can't really prepare for the emotions that come with it. So going through it and being able to stay in the space of, I did something fantastic, whether you had 2 cups of coffee, a cup of coffee, or 10, 15 years in the big leagues, you got to one of the hardest stages in professional sports. And to be able to take that into perspective, it takes a lot of willpower. It takes some help from friends, from family members, from guys who lived it, like my friendship with Jason. Him and we were together for a short window, but our friendship will carry on for years and years after that because of that, what happened within those 4 or 5 months that he was in Texas. It's difficult, the transition with what you're doing with your family, with your life. Where do you replace that adrenaline rush? Mine was on a mountain bike downhill in the middle of a bunch of rocks, heading over hill, had a couple trips to the emergency room, but, it's just, all the trying to learn something good again and trying to replace that adrenaline rush and that sense of urgency. Luckily mine wasn't like drinking or gambling or anything like that. Mine just happened to have a few more bumps and bruises from physical ailments, in a better bike. Had to ditch the Huffy, but
your mongoose didn't cut it, huh?
Oh, man, I had to get that 8th and 9th gear in there. I had to really pump it up for a while. But it really is important to keep touch with certain people that care about you along the way, the genuine people, because like Jason's had hundreds and hundreds of teammates, and I can't speak to how many he keeps in touch with over the years, but I know I've probably got a handful of guys that I reach out to, and we stay in touch. Some of those guys are from the minor leagues, but there is a short group of people that still find you hovering in their circle that care about you, and it's important to hold on to that, and it's important to reach out to those guys, especially when you're transitioning out of the game, because some of them have done it already, and some of them can show like, look, man, I know you're going through it right now, but it's going to be all right. You just got to find that step.
Just all you need is a payphone, bro.
Oh, you just gotta 1-800 collect it.
Get into the Matrix. I mean, you look like a little bit like Keanu Reeves right now. The look you got going.
Hey man, look, when I first went to Japan, I stepped off that plane. There was a news article about me, and they're like, you'll see it in the book, like the Chiba Lotte Marines, which is a different team. Their PR guy was there waiting for Brian Corey and Bill Murphy, and the media just blew right past them. And there's a story about, I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit here, but there's a story about like, oh, this guy's really good looking. And so they like equated me to between like, he looks like a mix between Keanu and Tom Cruise. And so, it's not bad. The media ran with it, and it was fun for a while. And then I didn't pitch so well right then. They were like, all right, forget what he looks like. We need this kid to, punch some tickets.
Chasing waves in Japan on that side of the earth.
Yeah.
I think if you put the aviators on, it would be like pretty uncanny.
I've never owned a pair of aviators. I might have to run out to the gas station and get me a pair. Yeah,
that, and you get like a Top Gun outfit on, and that could be your Halloween costume. I think I just got it for you right there. No, that's awesome. But I want to hear more about your time in Japan too, because I think a lot of people don't understand what kind of not only is it's a change in your baseball career on the field, and I'm assuming a very different way that they go about doing things over there, but it's also a huge change in your life and in the culture that you're going to be experiencing on a day-to-day basis. So can you kind of walk us through what were some of the biggest, I don't want to say obstacles, but kind of what were some of those biggest obstacles that you had to overcome immediately when you got there to kind of settle in and, start doing your job as a baseball player?
I went over at 26. I was pretty green. Over, hindsight being my guide at this point, assimilation and just also staying true to yourself is so important. And being able to mix those two together, it's really difficult to do. How do you stay true to yourself, stay true to your strengths, stay true to who you are that's made you a ball player, meanwhile assimilating to an entire different culture, clubhouse atmosphere, and situation like that. I know a lot of guys get that chance to go to the Dominican and the Venezuelan winter leagues, but when they come back to play in their regular seasons, they're still playing with those same guys. Like they get to know each other. It's kind of like a intermixed kind of culture, clash of cultures. Whereas on the other side of in the Asias, it's done their way, and you need to figure it out. Ricky Tick. And if you don't, you're going to probably struggle on the field, and you're probably going to struggle off the field because you find yourself isolated. You're already on an island, and then if you want to be so bullheaded that you only do things your way, they've seen you before. Me and my other foreign friends that we talk about, the other guys we talk about, I work with one. We talk about how many guys we did see that had all the talent in the world, but go over there and not be willing to make an adjustment, not be willing to change the way they did because they've been doing this their entire life. And a lot of that comes from big league veterans. Guys that spent almost too much time in the big leagues to be able to go somewhere else and be like, well, this is how we do it in the big leagues. They've heard it before.
Well, I know my teammate, Johnny Gomes, he's got some funny stories. He was having he's a true American. He called me, and I was in tears because I knew him as a person and what he was struggling with culturally. So that movie, Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck is pretty spot on. I mean, I'm sure more so than not, right?
On the nail. Wow. I remember I heard some stories and things like his way, just which works great here in the States. He's a great teammate. He's known for this.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily translate, and it really, I can't speak to his story because I never was in that clubhouse, but adjustments probably could have been made differently on both parts. That probably would have eased the waters a little bit. And then all of a sudden, if you're not hitting well, they don't really care how funny you are, and that's just the nature of the game. Like, you can be the best teammate in the world, but if you're down there at 195 with one at the break, like, they're going to make a move. Go be a good teammate in AAA.
Doesn't matter how many cartons of cigarettes you have either, right?
No, that was one of the most jarring things I ever saw. It was in my first year, and I'm starting a game, and I go back into the dugout, and I'm going to go blow off some steam. Had a tough inning. I look down there, and my starting catcher, he's in full gear, mask and helmet on top of his head, glove on top of that, and he's just ripping a heater. Like, just sucking this thing down as fast as he can before the next inning gets.
No way.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just a smoking culture. I mean, you go down behind the dugouts and it reeks of cigarettes. You can tell the guys that walk by you on the bench who just lit up a freshie. Sometimes it's just it was in my first couple of years there. I think the second or third year is when they banned it from the clubhouse.
Wow.
So they
Interesting.
Dude, that'd be sick. If there's a scenario where the catcher's going out doing the same thing, firing a heater to come talk to you on the mound, that would have been that would be epic.
If Leland can get in the hall doing it,
right.
But like there's just
that's a hell of a mound visit right there.
Oh, right. I mean, you're getting ripped out and you just smell secondhand heater in your nose. Like, it can't get any worse from here.
Throw some nicotine patches my way. God bless.
Oh man. But,
take it easy, guys.
Dude, there's just things like away from the field and like on the field that you got to get used to. You got to do it quick. I struggled with my first year out. I was fortunate enough to be invited back and be given that second opportunity when I got put in the bullpen. Yeah. And at that point, when I jumped in with 2 feet and was like, guys, I'm at your mercy. Like, I'm willing to try anything. You want me to do it? You want me to do a handstand and throw a pitch? I'll give it a shot. You want me to look? You want me to look straight up at the sky and twist like Nomo? I'll do it. I'll give it a shot. I was willing at that point in my career to throw anything at the wall and see what sticks. So I found myself in the bullpen role there. I think the bullpen all along might have worked best for my personality, keeping me in tune. Because as a starter, I'm days off, I'm just, get bored, like lose focus of what's going on in the game. And next thing you know, I'm halfway around the field and people are looking for me. But in the bullpen, I was kind of like forced to make sure that I was tuned in every second of every day.
That's three-pronged.
I like that.
And it really was just that jumping in both feet. I forgot that America existed. I forgot that, family kind of existed back home. I cut ties with like Facebook and like even phones and stuff like that. It's just like, if you need to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of Hillary, and she'll relay a message to me, and so like, that's just the way I was at the time. And then, starting a family and having a young family and getting that ball rolling, I really was all in, feet. Coming back home was just a stop. It was just a hotel stay for a couple months before I,
So as we turn the pages of your book, we're going to get a better sense of not just maybe, I don't know how vulnerable you really, got within the book. I got to imagine it's pretty awesome and pretty telling because you're probably pretty honest as you are here with us. And as I know you as a person, man, it's always fun to chat with you. You're real as it gets. But I can't wait to dig through the pages because just, as much as you can know about a person, you don't know a person until you know a person. There's a lot of stuff I don't know about you. So I'm excited as your friend and as a former teammate to even dive into that whole section because there was stuff that we had going on at the time that we didn't get into. There was just not enough time. So now that we have all the time in the world, right, as we retire, we have all this time, man.
All this time.
Yeah, so it will make for good toilet bowl reading, I'm sure, right?
My guy. The nice thing about the book is it's not so vulnerable into like the depths of like the heart and the soul as much as it is speaks to the baseball aspect and just what I went through from AAA to the big leagues. It really is kind of like just a trip down that road of what it looked like going through ups and downs, trials, tribulations, injuries after injury, good years, bad years. And just what I think it's a good insight into what any ball player goes through trying to make it one good season, and then having that good season and saying, all right, that's not enough, on to the next. And how difficult it is. I think it points to the fact that, people had given up on me, especially here in the States. They kind of forgot who I was, and I forced the hand. I kind of kicked the door in and said, like, guys, like, I'm still here and you messed up. You missed a talent, So it really, I read through it after it was full and said and done. And like Jason said, there's things that I forgot, and I'm really proud that one day my kids are going to be able to put it together, look through there, see pictures of themselves, and read about what it went through in order for us to have this life that we do now. Because as a father, you struggle now as a retired ball player. Like, how do I instill that work ethic in my children when they were too young to see it firsthand? And so hopefully they can read through the books and be like, wow, Dad, like, that's kind of a lot. Like, you kind of really gave yourself to it. And you're like, you kind of have to. And so as we try to replicate that in the real world now, we can only tell them about how we did it in the fantasy world of pro ball that we were fortunate enough to live and survive through.
I love that. It's awesome. It's fascinating. And I can't wait to read it as well. It's going to be awesome. I want to know, before we let you go here, because I think one of the cool things that you mentioned that kind of stuck out to me was how, and one of the things that I've heard of, for example, with baseball overseas, you take the practices, for example, and I've heard, and you could kind of dispel the rumors if they're not true, but I've heard that the practices themselves are like hours and hours and hours long, and they do that every single day. And that's just how, because I think a lot of times, for example, you watch the Little League World Series, and it seems like teams from Japan, the fundamentals that these kids have are unbelievable, like better than my college team that I played on almost. And it's like, you look at that and how do you get to that point? Practice, obviously. But can you kind of delve into that? And then one of the things you mentioned was, some of the things that you did in the big leagues over there, it's very different. And if you weren't willing to adapt to that, you were going to find yourself on the outside looking in. What can you give us an example, a little sneak peek for those who haven't read the book yet? What were some of those things that were so different, and how did that change the way you viewed baseball as a whole?
Outside of my book, there's a fantastic book by a writer and a man who lives in Japan named Robert Whiting, and he wrote a book called "You Gotta Have Wa," and it is a very interesting story about Japanese baseball and the history of it, and was this idea of team of togetherness, of team ownership, of being together as one unit. They don't have the free agent system like we do. I mean, they have free agency, but it's a lot different. You don't see a lot of bodies moving like we do here in the States. They trade, but it's usually a 33-year-old catcher for a 32-year-old catcher. They don't really they really don't have these blockbuster type scenarios as we do here. So
we just bring those guys over here.
When you get drafted to a team, you are on that team. You are a part of that family. And so, for all intents and purposes, Masanori Ishikawa, lefty starter. I think he's 43, still pitching. No, he's at this time. I think he's 45. Little lefty. He's the Japanese Jamie Moyer.
Love that.
And he's been in the same organization since he was 18 years old.
That's incredible, dude.
No way.
So you have these teammates that have been together for 10, 15, 20, 25 years.
Strong culture for
coaches in that same organization. So, I mean, we're talking marriage, birth of your first children, death of family members, divorces, unfortunate, sickness. Like you're together through all of these things. And what do you all end up sharing in common is that you come to the field for work, and we're going to go through it together. So there's this togetherness that just, without even baseball being included, you're a part of an organization for the rest of your life almost. And even when you're done playing, you go back and work for that as a scout, as a coach, as a front office guy. So there's guys that have been in the Yakult, like for the team that I'm from, the Yakult organization, since they were 20, 18, 19 years old, and now they're in their 60s. So they are they're a part of it. In the States, you get one or two guys like that. You get, Mel Stottlemyre seniors are extremely rare cases where you pitch for the Yankees and you coach for the Yankees and you win all this, and then you are a Yankee. you don't get many Yogi Berras, you know? And so that translating that onto the field, there's this togetherness, like the stretch is forever long. I mean, we call it the each knee son because these guys will count out loud, you know, each knee son, each knee, you know, and they're all together. And you just, I'd love to send you a video of like stretch, you know, and it's loud.
Please do. Yeah.
Guys are yelling, guys are getting into it. There's, you know, just, it's a togetherness, man. And then all of a sudden you go through your calisthenics, you go through your stretch. That's a 30, 45-minute process to begin with. And then you get into your team fundamentals. You get into your things, and then the extra practices on the backfield, and there's 4 guys working on diving plays. There's 4 guys, you know, and at the end of the day, you really have done an entire practice with a group of guys, and there's not very much solo work. Whereas in the States, you get in, you get your work in, and get out and get ready for the next day. Team fundy at 10:30, that last 20, 25 minutes, you do it right, and then everybody else off doing their own individual programs. So sure, there is a little bit of individualism, especially as we progress in our physical and mental world, and the game changes. But in reality, there's that got to have that togetherness that a lot of teams still incorporate. Where we're like in spring training, up until like the 80s, like families weren't allowed, like at all.
Oh,
like
interesting.
Your focus is on baseball. You're in a hotel with your team, and even now, families will come and visit a little bit, but they're only there for like a couple days for a week. It's not like we're moving our whole family out to Phoenix. You know, what are you?
Right.
Airbnb in Scottsdale. I'll see you boys later. You know, like it's not like that in Japan at all. It's this team atmosphere where we are together from February all the way until November. Get comfortable with each other, learn to lean on each other. You need something, these are the guys to go to. These are the captains. And then at the very end of the day, you know, we're having team parties left and right.
Yeah.
You know, pitchers play, guys, tonight, players party. Pitchers in one group, position players in another group. We got a day off tomorrow. Enjoy it. And then we'll go out and run an entire restaurant, be there until the early hours of the morning, you know, having sodas, eating good food, you know. So
fire up a couple of heaters in your day? Did you file up a couple of them?
They've got to, yeah, you know, every once in a while you're going through a bad stretch. You got to, hey, boys, like, let's slip behind the back and let's rip it.
Give me one of them sticks.
You know what? I'm in the circle, you know, but,
Smeg.
It really is.
Did you like that better than I guess because it's so much different what you're describing to me than everything that I've heard from people who've been in major league clubhouses. Not that the team atmosphere doesn't exist, but that seems more like a family almost than it does a team. Did you find that you liked that?
I absolutely
better?
love it. In the States, it kind of has to happen naturally because each year, especially as the season goes on, Jason can attest to it. You know, the doors constantly opening and closing, and new guys are coming in and out. So there has to be this natural togetherness that just kind of clicks together, and you can tell when it's forced. You can see it, you can smell it, you can taste it. There's just a weird feel in the room when like it's trying to be forced, that togetherness, that family. And then there's the guys that aren't buying in. There's the guys that are only there for a couple of days. There's the guys that are, you know, looking for free agency. There's the guys looking for trade deadlines, and it's this.
Right.
And it's funny. You always kind of hear that togetherness come out of winning ball clubs. You know, you don't hear about how together the 2024 White Sox are. You know, like you don't.
Oh, you do.
You're not hearing that story come out. You know, and so it's got in the States. It's just got to be a little more natural.
They're counting. I mean, 62 more games. We get to go home. Got that vacation trip planned already.
Oh yeah,
they're ready to not be together anymore. Yeah, I think
they're able to do it so soon. You know, and like there's going to be a couple guys that are have to cancel the hotels once they get traded to a winning ball club. But you know, it's just this in Japan. It's just this constant togetherness. And sure enough, there's going to be some new foreigners, maybe a new free agency or a free agent, one guy every year, maybe two guys, but 98% of the team's been there together, and they're like, hey, this is how we party. This is how we get together. Come on, let us show you. This is how it's done. And so, like,
I love that.
The roots are already deep. And it just takes a couple, you know, it takes the new growth just to latch onto the latch onto the tree and say, all right, I'm here to roll with you boys, and I'm here to grow. So I love the way that Japan does it, especially at the Yakult organization. It really is a family organization, and I work for them now. Once again, played with them then, came back after my career, and now I work with them as a scout and an advisor.
Nice.
So even for guys that like myself and my coworker Aaron Guile, who played with them as well, guys that really take to the team, embrace the culture, embrace the team, and they know that we feel that we're home. Even when we're done playing, they reach out and say, hey, come on, come home, come on back. And so,
oh, that's awesome.
It is a cool thing, and it's great to be a part of it. And now I get to travel AAA cities, grab myself a hamburger, sit back behind the net, and do the judging all for myself. And I just get to watch the game, and it really is a cool situation.
That's awesome. Well, when you're down in, if you come to the Syracuse Mets, let me know. I'll come and we'll have some chicken tenders. So
chicken wings.
We'll get it depends on what the Hilton has got offering that night.
No, you go up to my dad's sports bar right up the road.
Yeah, best chicken wings in the world.
I may be in Syracuse coming up soon. Funny you say that. So
okay,
I don't
all right, hit my line. Let's do it.
But my boss is in town, and he's on the international kick for some reason. So he likes having travel partners. So
there you go.
Yeah,
I love it. That's exciting.
Well,
Tony, go ahead, Grill.
I was just going to say, thank you for sharing your story. Point Break. If you haven't seen the movie, if you haven't read the book, Keanu Reeves, Chasing the Dream in Japan and Back. You lived it, Tony. Awesome. It's good to have you, my friend, dude. I love.
Tell us where people can find the book before we let you go too.
You can find it anywhere you buy any bookstore that you buy your books. Most notably Barnes and Noble, Amazon. Order it online. They've got a Kindle version out there for you e-readers. It's being audio. It's going to be an audio book here coming up soon. In case
are you reading it?
Nice.
Are you reading it?
I fought for it, but they wouldn't let me do it. I figured
read a bedtime story to everybody.
I really needed to emphasize some of those F-bombs that I drop, but I don't know if the guy's really gonna sell it for me that well. Hopefully he does.
Well, you can redo it if you don't like it down the road, man.
Maybe they'll make a movie out of it.
Yes, we're gonna have to talk some stuff about that business stuff, because there's a whole, like I said, Forrest Gump in it right after post career. There's so much life out there. But how lucky are we, dude, to experience this? This game has brought me halfway around the globe, got you all the way damn around it. And Tone, it's always fun having you, man. It's good to see you, and I hope to God I see you in person again real soon, my man.
Man, I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to give you a big hug, my friend.
Yeah, buddy.
Love it. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate the publicity. I appreciate the friendship. I appreciate you guys just giving your time for me today. All love.
It's a Mound Visit,
Absolutely.
baby.
Well, if you enjoyed hearing Tony and you want to hear more, subscribe to the channel. You can do that on YouTube, and you can find the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're a part of the Believe Podcast Network, so you can find it there. And hit us up. Let us know if you want to hear Tony, if you want to hear more from us, whatever you want to hear. We love it. And you can find Tony's book right in the link in our description. So go ahead and read that as well. Tony, again, thank you so much. We loved having you here on Mound Visit.